Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Dalmar, and today's topic is Kabbalah, and that is Jewish mysticism. We talked about it before, but maybe you weren't there, so I'll give a recap of 1 minute of what Kabbalah is. Kabbalah is the mystical ideas that were handed down, which is the word which Kabbalah means, received from one generation to another. It's very ancient. The most ancient mysticism, really. Many people get that off, and they think, well, it's Eastern Europe, the Eastern countries over here, and China and Japan, and they're looking for mystical ideas in India. Really, Jewish mysticism preserves everyone over here. So this is very ancient, and it's the basis of all other mysticism. And we talked of many ideas, but let's go right into new topics. And that is the idea of the male-female relationship. Now, everything in the physical world, we always say this, mimics the spiritual world. And in turn, vice versa, the spiritual world is expressed in the physical world. Now, so you can ask about everything, and we're going to talk about the male-female relationship. Why isn't a human being just one person? Why does there have to be two parts of a person? Male and female, and number two, that's the only way to have children, number one, but why are there differences, and why is there this kind of, number one, a unity, but number two, maybe we can say the worst problems are when there is an abuse of the male-female relationship. We can say clearly like pornography, for example, and different situations, maybe some of the worst fights are divorce fights. Here, male and female, people live together in perfect harmony, which is the most beautiful relationship. People who live in that kind of marriages, 40, 50, 60 years, this is the best relationship, my best friend, and all kinds of love stories, etc. And then we know, unfortunately, when there's a schism, these are the worst arguments. So we see it's a very vital energy, the male-female relationship. But because of that, really, we could see in the physical world, there must be something very, very important in the spiritual realms also. Again, as we say, anything in the physical world mimics the spiritual world. If it's so vital and so important, and so much energy into this relationship in this world, in the physical world, there must be that in the spiritual world also. Now, what is the male and female spiritually? The male world, of course, is that the giver, and the female is the recipient in the relationship, and therefore they create an incredible unity. And there's no greater unity in the world than the male-female relationship. People can have good friends, etc. We do have, but this is the greatest level of unity you can have. Now, unity is a very big buzzword when you talk about Kabbalah, because unity in Hebrew you call yichud, yichudim, unities, that this is what we're looking for, because ultimately we have to say in the bottom line is that God is one, but there's very little oneness in this world, very pluralistic world. And what really our job is to make it in, again, one sense, the whole purpose of the world is to make out of the plurality, meaning this world, to make it oneness, to connect it to the one God. So this is really the ultimate idea of what we do in this world. And again, so therefore we say, hey, look, the unity of male-female, that's the greatest unity we can have. Other things, you have good friends, or you connect to one thing to another. Fine, there's connections, but there's no greater unity than the male-female relationship. And that's why it's so important, and that's why it's very symbolic. Where do we see it symbolic? Right from the book of the Song of Songs. That the Song of Songs is written by Solomon, and really, generally, it's a love song between a male and a female, and people take it as crude, it's a nice love song. On the other hand, and the very other hand, is again, it's not just a love song, it's in the part of the Bible, and therefore it's very deep, and therefore it shows on something that is very, very important. And that really shows the relationship not only between a male and female, it's a relationship with God and the Jewish people. Now the Jewish people are the recipient, because any person is, because we're receiving we're first of all being created. Second of all, we're getting our life force. And second, we're getting nourishment when we eat. We're thanking God for what we have. So we're just very big recipients of everything in this world, and God is the giver. But to understand a true unity, it has to go back and forth. Not only should you be a recipient, you have to be a giver also. So that's a very deep idea, where here it is that God is a recipient of us. What does that mean? What does God receive from us? Is a wild statement, but it is true, because here we are, that we're doing what we need to do, like making unities in the world and making our prayers, and we're giving to God also. We're teaching Him, we're giving over here, we're learning the Torah, we're connecting to Him, and in certain senses, and it's hard to say, but in a certain sense, He's gaining from this also. He's gaining from this relationship that we're trying to achieve. So this is very, very important in the male-female relationship. Also that give and take over here. So it says a very interesting, a beautiful idea, that when God made man, that He made man in His image. But really, in the very wild, and the Medrash says that the original man, which is Adam, was created head and face. He was both female and male together. And when God took his rib from him and made a female, He really did almost like a Siamese twin, and He separated the two. And then He made two separate people from the male and female person. It's very deep, but that's what happened at the beginning of creation. So really what do we see here is the male and female really is one, but was subsidized into two, and therefore, and then they had to reunite together and then to make children. So this is a very, very deep idea for us also, the idea of the male, female, and it says the words in Hebrew, Ezer Kenegdo, which means a help. I want to find for man a help, corresponding to him or against him. But then the rabbi said, well, this is very interesting. Now I'm trying to relate it to our everyday affairs, this kabbalistic idea. How can you be a help at the same time against? I mean, if you're helping someone, you're not against them, and if you're against them, obviously you're not helping them. So it says, and the basic idea is just that if you're good with each other, as we said before, then you're a help. If you're bad for them, you're against them. So that's a very important idea, that in mysticism you're trying to connect the two. Not make disunity, but trying to make unity between two parties. So that's a very important idea for us, and to connect the two together. Now, when we see the two unities together, what do we see? We see children being made of, and that's very important. This is symbolic of the sphirot, of the 10 sphirot that created the world. Showed it before, but we have a chart here, very important chart, that we have, just again, the intellect is the top. If you were here the last time, the emotion or the middle, and then the foundation. Now the intellect is called mothers, but in more specifically the wisdom, the chachma, is called the male. And the male is the start, the flash of an idea. Because, I mean, we're talking about not just thinking, you know, what should I do at the store today? We're thinking about intellectual idea, and you think about it, how deep it is. You get a flash of an inspiration. But then almost like, for example, with Albert Einstein, he has a flash idea, E equal MC2. Well, very few people understand it, and it's really not practical at all. But you have to take the idea, and you have to think it through. How could it have practical ramifications? So maybe, I don't know if you would say that Albert Einstein would look at a nuclear plant today, says, oh yeah, I knew all about that. You know, I'm the one who created it all. I had the initial inspiration, I don't know. I don't think he would understand. He would go into a nuclear plant and really would understand it. Saying, well, I know this dial, turn this dial this way, this dial that way. He wouldn't understand the dials, and they'd say, well, it really all comes from your theory. But practically, wouldn't come out to it. So therefore, that's kind of the male-female relationship also. The male's the flash of the inspiration, just like he is in the love relationship. And then the woman, just like in the love relationship, takes 9 months to take the two cells, and lo and behold, 9 months later, you have a full person that comes through there, a baby, 9 months later. And that actually happens to our intellect also. It's the same idea, that from an intellect, from a flash of an idea, that comes down into a flash of an idea comes down to a bina, which is understanding. And understanding means you churn over the idea to try to understand as much as you can. You get it to das. So that's why it says the male and the female bring down the children. You finally get down to the meditation, the contemplation, and you have an emotional state where you feel spiritually uplifted by thinking and meditating about these very deep ideas, how God is one. Now, it's very important to understand that there's a lot of meditation in Judaism, to say the very least. But, you have to meditate on different ideas. And one of the ideas is we have to look at the creation. So even though the creation, maybe you can say people are inspired by it, but it's physical. A tree is a tree, and human beings are a human being. These are physical things. But the more we meditate on how incredible they are, which is what we're supposed to do through our prayers, then we have a little bit of an awesome idea of how great our Creator is. So this is what you're using your mind for, to think and to understand. Many times when people learn the science, or they look at the way things are, they don't get inspired. But you have to take it a step higher and say, well, where did it all come from? Isn't this amazing? It goes from the spring, things grow, summer, you harvest, and fall, the leaves fall off, and everything works. It works pretty good for the most part. I know people look at the world and say, well, there's disease and there's homeless, there's problems in the world, and I'm not saying not, of course, but really if you see the way the world runs, it runs pretty well. People are living and they're thriving and they're getting along for the most part. And surely the natural world is still going on. We don't find droughts, and we're not getting burnt up, and we're not getting flooded. A little flood here once in a while, fine. I understand there's problems. I'm not saying 100%, but 99% of the world is running pretty darn well. And we have to acknowledge that. It's a beautiful, beautiful creation. And who created it all? Well, this is God's masterpiece. This is just the first level of meditation, that nothing created it itself. That we understand that God created the world, and He did a pretty darn good job. And that should, the more you think about it, like I just said, then you should give into an emotional state of more of a love and an awe of who God really is. So that's very important. But saying all that, then, we understand that God did create the world, but He also created man. Now man, different in contrast to what the history books and biology books says, is not a sophisticated gorilla. A human being is very, very special, a creature in his own right. Maybe in certain ways he acts like the gorilla, looks like the gorilla. Maybe in certain senses, maybe that's true, but still a person could be a godly person. And where do we see that? Is we see that in the Bible. It's very interesting. At the creation story, God is always talking. V'yomer Elokim in Hebrew, and God spoke. He's speaking this, and He creates a world. And on the other hand, though, that when He creates man, what do we see? His words, V'yiv b'yapiv nishmos chayim. And He breathed into him a soul of life. He blew. Now, what's the difference between speaking and blowing? He says, well, there is a difference. Now, I'm speaking here I mean, you speak on the phone. You don't say, yes, talk for 10, 15 minutes. It's a big deal. So you spoke. You say, wow, hard job. I speaking on the phone. So you speak. It's not hard at all. But let's say you go to a birthday party and you blow up a few balloons for the kids. You know, you're blowing, you blow from your gut, you blow from your inner self, and then from that sense, you actually, you know, you go, wow, man, a few balloons. And you're tired and you're pooped. Really, what's the difference? Air came from your lungs and came out of your mouth. That's how you speak, and that's the same way you blow a balloon. So what's the difference? Well, we know that your blowing comes from your gut. You can't just talk and blow up a balloon. It's not going to go. Over here, it's not enough pressure from your air. You got to give a real lot of pressure from your gut, and that's how you blow things up over here, blow up a balloon. Well, let's use that analogy really back to our Bible story. And God spoke and the world came into being. So we have to understand that this creation story, and albeit I just said it, fine, it's an incredible creation, and we should, I don't undermine that at all. On the contrary, we should realize what kind of great creation it is that a God created the world. But then saying all that, we have to understand the greatness of the soul of man, which is epitomized by the idea of blowing. I mean, God doesn't have lungs and he's not a human being. But on the other hand, the idea that God blew uses all his force to create a soul. So the soul of man is very, very deep, and it's very, very high on a spiritual level to say even the words, Hello, Kamim Mamish, a portion of God from above. Now that's very nice. He says that God blew into me, but on the other hand, we know we are made up of two parts. A little bit, I said that before, a little part, we are like an animal. I said we're like a gorilla. So in certain parts, we are a human being. And a little bit, we are like animals. We eat, we drink, we are like animals in that sense. And that's really the crux of the whole matter. On one hand, we said we have a very, very spiritual level of a soul. And on the other hand, we're our human being, where we actually it's called in Hebrew, Nefesh Bahamas, an animal soul. So granted, we in certain ways, we are like animals. But we have two parts of ourselves. So a little bit, we're all schizophrenic. I kind of joke around saying that we have two leanings. We have a higher power inside of us. And in the other sense, we have a lower part of ourselves. And that's where the whole crux of the matter is, because that's where free choice comes into play. That someone has free choice, that they can choose either way, whichever they want to go. They could go into a higher level, or they can go into a lower level. I mean, they can act like an angel and be spiritual and use your mind to raise yourself up, or you can just give in to your lower parts of your being and act like a little bit of an animal. So that's really a lot of the purpose where Kabbalah says that's where in a way, the schism lies, and that's where the unity is. Where's the unity in this? And that really deals with when we say in Shema Yisrael, you have to, as Hashem Elokecha, you should love your God, with all your hearts. Now, women, hearts, I just said hearts. You should say there's only one heart. Everybody's got one heart. You don't have two hearts. But in sense, that is two hearts. You have the good inclination in your heart and a bad inclination to your heart. And really, instead of, like I kind of joked, but it's a little bit of the truth also, everybody's a little bit schizophrenic because you're being pulled into two different ways. You're supposed to make a unity out of yourself. We talked about making unity in the universe, but we have to make a unity in ourselves also. How do you make that unity? Using your mind. That is your connecting rod. By explaining to yourself, that's saying, well, what would you rather be? Would you rather be on a higher level? Or would you rather act like an animal? You know, an animal, cow just eats and drinks, goes along the whole day. Or use your mind to raise yourself up to a higher level. What would you rather be? So, I mean, ideas like this in your mind helps you to intellectualize and rationalize. If something's rational to yourself, you know you're going to do it. It just makes sense. You see clear how important it is that you know it's going to be the right thing. Most people will not go against irrational thoughts. Not everybody, again, people say, well, I know it's wrong, but I know people say that. But on the other hand, if you know it's right and you really think about it and it's clear to you that it's right, then you know you're going to do the right thing. It's got to be clear. And for example, we can use an example, they'd say, well, don't smoke cigarettes, and everybody knows that it's written on the cigarette pack, and it's no good for you, etc. We all know this. We all hear the commercials. On the other hand, we know people who smoke. So how do you fit the two together? They're telling you it's not healthy, so what are you doing it for? On the other hand, that's what I'm saying. So some people may not do what's smart. On the other hand, they always say doctors don't smoke. Why doctors? Well, maybe they're smart, but why they don't smoke? Well, they know what the disease is. They see it. Here you read it on a cigarette pack. Oh, it's no good. Yeah, it's no good. It's no good. Who cares? But if you see it and you know it, and it's clear to you, then that's really strong, and you won't do it. So that's what we're saying a little bit also, that if you're just thinking about it, may not motivate you, but if it's clear to you, and that's what's important. We showed the chart before, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, getting it down so clear, and so, you don't have a picture of spirituality, but on the other hand, you can use your mind's eye, and just using this idea, it's so clear to you the right thing to do, that you'll do it, and that'll motivate you. So therefore, it helps you to bring your animal soul, your animal instincts, in connection to godly instincts. For example, a person wants to have a good time. It's a very, a human thing, and sometimes, it's not the best thing. Like we say, people want to just smoke cigarettes or do certain things, and it's really not so. Maybe it's active, but it's not so productive, let's say, in life. So we're trying to make the person to the ultimate level of production. If God gave you the ability to do something, then you really should do it. But again, people waste their time, they waste their lives, and that's where the intellect comes into. You have to reason with yourself, what's my purpose in the world? Is this what I'm here to do, is to waste my time and to do nothing, or just act like an animal? These things, if a person really, really thinks about them, that will help them to do the right thing. And then instead of having two drives, should I do the right thing or should I do the wrong thing? A lot of times people in their animalistic instincts, yeah, I'm going to do the right thing because I know that's really the funnest and the best thing I can do. So that's a very, very beautiful idea that says in Kabbalah that to counteract the evil in the world to make it good. Because there's two ways to, again, the Kabbalistic thought, even though it's ancient, really came on the scene only a few hundred years ago to the masses. Intellectuals always held on to it, but really the masses really, that the masses only had access to about 250 years ago. And this was a major, major idea, because beforehand, everybody would admit there's evil in the world, and a person wants to perfect themselves. They know they have things that are wrong with them, let's face it. People know that there are things wrong with them. So how do you get rid of the bad things? That's the question. There's two approaches. Either you knock yourself down, and maybe, like, for example, in the old ways they would fast, and they would just remove themselves from the world. But like I say, if you want to approach an enemy, there's two ways to do it. Either you can bomb them, beat them up so bad, and they'll say, all right, I give up, I won't go against you. Or else, even which a higher level is you take your enemy and make him your friend. That was the best thing of all, because now you're not just wasting your time beating someone up, and and being sure you patrol around the area, be sure that he's doing right, and have policemen there. Hey, they're your friend, and they're helping you out, instead of you're wasting your time, or using your energy to subjugate them, that you're having your enemies become your allies and helping you out. So that's a better level. And the same thing we can say is for ourselves also. that the best way for ourselves is our body. You can say, well, I have drives, so maybe I should fast, and I shouldn't deal with them. And then now the Hasidic thought, the Kabbalistic thought was not to do that. Is make them your friend, and that's what I was bringing out to you. Kol levavcha, in all your hearts. Make your animalistic drive just have an excitement of doing the right thing. And just like you have an excitement, a lot of energy, a lot of people to do the wrong thing, it's time to do the right thing also. So that's a very beautiful idea, and let your soul take over and let it rise up without being anchored and being stifled really to do the wrong thing. Now the soul is called not only as a portion of godliness, it says Ner Avayin Nishmas Adam, the candle of God. The candle of God is a soul of man. Ner Avayin Nishmas Adam, a candle of God is a soul of man. Meaning your soul is like a flame that really, really wants, just like a flame flickers up and wants to go to its source, so too our soul would do that also. But again, that's what I'm bringing out. Your body is holding it down, and that's where that schism comes from. It's a problem for a lot of people, and that's why to find true fulfillment, true satisfaction, Kabbalah says, make your body, your animal instincts, and be your friend and try to get to a higher level. That's the ultimate source, bring the whole world to a level of perfection, which is really the whole purpose of human beings down in this world. Like we said, make unity, not disunity, and in order to make it a better world. So just to review in the last minute that we have, we talked about the unity between the different spheros, the emanations, and we epitomized that by the male-female relationship, which is, of course, unity in this world, but we're supposed to be unifying ourselves with God constantly, and not only unifying the world, but unifying ourselves, bringing ourselves into sync with our animal souls, our lower levels, to our higher levels, to be, everything should be on the same page, because really ultimately, Kabbalah says God is one, and really everything is one. We may not see it, we don't see, but that's our job. That's exactly what we're here for, not just to bemoan and saying, oh, wow, it's a lousy world, and there's problems in the world, and I got problems. Instead of bemoaning, look for the opportunities to make the world a better place, in order to raise the world, raise ourselves up to the highest level, where we can finally see perfection in the world with the coming of the Messiah. Thank you very much.